The aliens watching from the edges of the arena murmured in confusion. Some leaned forward with interest, while others exchanged glances of disbelief. Admiral Lissara, a tall humanoid with silver skin who served as the Neutral Council security overseer, stepped forward. "I must confirm the parameters," she said, her voice clear and formal. "This is a demonstration only. First blood or surrender will end the exercise. Are all participants clear on these terms?" Thalvor and his Braxian. Warriors thumped their chests in agreement. Garcia and Cook simply nodded. "The humans have chosen to participate without weapons," Admiral Lissara continued. "This is within their rights. The demonstration will proceed." Cranax chittered something to a fellow Vespid that made its antennae twitch excitedly. The translator caught only fragments. "Perfect opportunity. Establish dominance. Remember the plan." From the observation area, Captain Miller watched carefully. Dr. Bennett stood beside him, recording everything on his tablet. "Captain," Bennett whispered, "I'm picking up increased communications among the Vespid delegation. They seem very interested in this demonstration." "Keep monitoring," Miller replied quietly. "I don't think this is just a friendly exercise anymore." In the arena, Thalvor stepped forward, his ceremonial staff held loosely in his massive hands. The weapon was beautifully carved but clearly lethal with sharp metal tips at both ends. "We will begin slowly," the Braxian announced, his voice rumbling, "to give the humans a fair chance to show their capabilities." Garcia and Cook stood calmly, their hands empty at their sides. They had positioned themselves about 10 feet apart, seemingly exposed and vulnerable. "Your confidence is admirable," Thalvor said, "but misplaced." The first Braxian warrior lunged suddenly at Garcia with his spear-like weapon, moving with surprising speed for his size. The attack was measured, not meant to kill, but certainly intended to draw first blood and end the demonstration quickly. Garcia didn't retreat. In a motion almost too fast to follow, she sidestepped, her right hand catching the shaft of the weapon. Using the Braxian's own momentum, she redirected the spear while stepping into his space. Her left hand came up in an open palm strike to the alien's wrist. The crack of stressed chitin echoed through the arena. The Braxian roared in surprise more than pain as his weapon clattered to the floor. He tried to regain his balance, but Garcia was already moving. She swept his leg with a perfect ankle hook and guided the massive alien to the ground with a controlled throw. Before anyone could react, Garcia held the Braxian's own weapon at his throat. "Do you yield?" she asked calmly. The silence in the arena was absolute. The Braxian warrior looked up in total confusion, then nodded slowly. Garcia stepped back and respectfully offered the weapon back to him, handle first. Meanwhile, the second Braxian had circled around to attack Cook. This warrior carried curved blades in each hand and moved with practiced precision. He slashed at the seemingly vulnerable human with expert technique. But Private Cook was no longer where he had been standing. He had dropped low and moved inside the Braxian's reach. Before the alien could adjust, Cook had wrapped his arms around one of the Braxian's legs and executed a perfect takedown. The massive reptilian crashed to the ground with a surprised grunt. Cook moved smoothly to secure an arm lock, applying just enough pressure to immobilize without causing injury. "I suggest you drop your weapons," Cook said quietly. "I don't want to damage your joints." The Braxian tested the hold and felt the immediate pressure on his shoulder socket. His blades fell from his hands. From the observation area, Dr. Bennett was rapidly taking notes. "Fascinating," he muttered. "The aliens don't understand human biomechanics at all. They're completely unprepared for our movement patterns and leverage techniques." Captain Miller nodded. "Look at Cranax. He's not surprised. He's calculating." The Vespid observer was indeed watching intently, his compound eyes fixed on the human's every movement. Unlike the other aliens showing shock or confusion, Cranax seemed to be analyzing and assessing. In the arena, Thalvor had seen enough. His warriors had been dispatched with embarrassing ease. He stepped forward, his ceremonial staff spinning in an impressive display of skill. "Perhaps I underestimated you," he said. "Let me correct that error. Garcia and Cook exchanged a quick glance and slight nod. They had trained for scenarios like this many times on Earth. Thalvor attacked with full force now, his weapon a blur as he drove forward with a series of complex strikes. The Braxian was clearly a master of his weapon, using its reach to keep Garcia at bay while maneuvering to separate the humans. But Garcia and Cook moved with coordinated precision. When Thalvor focused on one, the other would close distance. They never attacked directly but constantly disrupted the Braxian's positioning. "Stand and fight properly," Thalvor growled in frustration after a minute of failed attacks. "We are," Cook replied simply, ducking under another swing. Garcia moved in from the side, timing her approach perfectly with Cook's distraction. She slipped past the staff's reach and applied a precise strike to a nerve cluster on Thalvor's arm, a technique adapted from human martial arts, but modified for Braxian physiology based on Dr. Bennett's research. Thalvor's right arm went numb. His eyes widened in shock as his grip on the staff weakened. Cook seized the opportunity, catching the weapon and using it to unbalance the Braxian with a simple lever action. Garcia followed through with a sweeping leg motion, and the massive alien commander found himself on his back with Cook holding the ceremonial staff gently but firmly against his throat. "The demonstration is concluded," Admiral Lissara announced. "The humans have prevailed." The arena erupted in shocked conversation. Many alien representatives were now standing, pointing and discussing what they had just witnessed. "High Commander." Zilteric approached Captain Miller with all four arms clasped in what appeared to be a gesture of respect. "Captain, I believe we have much to discuss," the alien diplomat said. "Your species has capabilities we did not anticipate." Miller nodded professionally. "We come in peace, High Commander, but peace has never meant defenseless." On the far side of the arena, Krenax was already leaving, his communication device active. The Vespid spoke quickly into it in his native language, too fast for nearby translators to catch. Back in the preparation room, Garcia and Cook were cooling down, seemingly unfazed by the demonstration. "They really didn't expect that," Cook said, stretching his shoulders. "No," Garcia agreed. "They've been watching our ships and technology but not understanding humans themselves." Dr. Bennett rushed in, his tablet displaying a scrolling data feed. "Exceptional work, both of you. But we have a situation. I've been monitoring communications, and the Vespid delegation is extremely active right now." Captain Miller's communicator beeped. When he answered, High Commander Zilteric's voice was urgent. "Captain Miller, I believe we should move to secure quarters immediately. It seems your demonstration has caused concern among certain factions." Miller looked at his team. "It looks like showing them we're not defenseless has made us a target. Dr. Bennett, what else do you know about the Vespids?" "They're strategic thinkers," Bennett replied, already pulling up files. "If they can't win one way, they'll try another," Garcia finished grimly. "And next time they won't underestimate us." Captain Ethan Miller stood tall as the airlock door of Earth's diplomatic vessel Handshake opened with a soft hiss. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Council after decades of being watched from afar. The neutral station, Convergence, floated at the edge of human space, a perfect halfway point between Earth's territory and the vast expanse of alien civilizations. "Remember," Ethan whispered to his team, "we're here to make friends, not statements." Lieutenant Amanda Garcia nodded, her eyes scanning the reception area with the careful precision that had earned her the top spot in Earth Special Forces before her transfer to diplomatic security. Beside her, Dr. Paul Bennett clutched his tablet tightly, eager to finally meet the species he had studied through distant transmissions. The alien delegation waited on the other side of the airlock. At the front stood High Commander Zilteric, tall and elegant with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the station lights. Four arms were folded in what Ethan recognized as a formal greeting posture. "Welcome to Convergence Station, humans of Earth," Zilteric's translator device conveyed in slightly mechanical English. "The Galactic Council has awaited this meeting with great interest." Ethan stepped forward and bowed slightly. "The people of Earth are honored by your welcome, High Commander. We look forward to peaceful cooperation with all species of the galactic community." As the formal greetings continued, Ethan noticed a group of aliens hanging back from the main delegation. They had chitinous exoskeletons and compound eyes that seemed to evaluate every movement the humans made. One in particular, with distinctive red markings on its carapace, stared openly at Garcia with what seemed like contempt. "That is Observer. Krynax of the Vespid Confederation," Dr. Bennett whispered. "They're known for their military prowess and hive mind tactics." The Vespid stepped forward suddenly. "I am curious about your defensive capabilities, humans," Krynax clicked, his translator making the words sound harsh. "Your vessel appears to lack standard weapons arrays. How does such a vulnerable species expect to maintain diplomatic standing?" Garcia's posture stiffened slightly, but her face remained professionally neutral. Dr. Bennett cleared his throat uncomfortably. "The handshake is a diplomatic vessel," Ethan replied calmly. "We came in peace, not prepared for war." "Admirable," Ziltarak interjected smoothly, "but perhaps concerning to some of our more security-minded members. The galaxy can be a dangerous place, Captain Miller." "We are aware of the risks," Ethan said. "Humans have faced dangers before." Krynax made a sound that the translator didn't catch, but seemed dismissive. Several other alien representatives exchanged looks that Ethan couldn't quite interpret. "Perhaps," said a new voice, and a massive reptilian alien stepped forward. Its scales were a deep green, and it stood nearly 7 feet tall. Perhaps the humans would be willing to demonstrate their capabilities? "For the comfort of the Council, of course. An excellent suggestion, Representative Thalvor," Ziltarak said. "Would your delegation be amenable to a simple assessment exercise, Captain Miller? Purely as a formality." Ethan glanced at Garcia, who gave him a nearly imperceptible nod. "We would be happy to participate in any reasonable demonstration," Ethan replied. "Though I'm curious what kind of assessment you have in mind." "Nothing complicated," Ziltarak assured him. "A simple demonstration of how your species handles itself in potential conflict situations. It helps us understand new members better." Dr. Bennett leaned close to Ethan. "Captain, I believe this is a test. Several species here seem to be evaluating our threat level." Ethan nodded slightly. "And what happens if we refuse?" "It would be noted in your species admission file," Ziltarak said carefully. "Not a problem, of course, but it might affect certain trade and cooperation agreements." "I see," Ethan said. "Then we accept. What are the parameters?" "Excellent." Ziltarak's 4 hands clasped together. "We have preparation facilities where your representatives can ready themselves. The exercise will take place on the training deck in 3 hours." As the alien delegation dispersed, Ethan gathered his team in their assigned quarters. The room was spacious but designed for non-human proportions, making everything feel slightly off. "They're testing us," Garcia said immediately. The Vespid representative was practically dripping with contempt. "I noticed," Ethan replied. "Dr. Bennett, what's your assessment?" The xenobiologist was already reviewing data on his tablet. "It's not uncommon for new species to be tested, but this feels different. The Vespids and Braxians, those are the reptilians, both come from warrior cultures. They're particularly interested in our defensive capabilities." "Which they think are lacking," Garcia added. "Because our ship doesn't bristle with weapons," Ethan nodded. "I've reviewed the files on both species. They evolved in extremely competitive environments. To them, visible armament is a sign of strength and status." A message appeared on the Yar room's communication panel. Ethan read it aloud. "Representatives for the exercise should report to Preparation Area C7. No weapons permitted in the demonstration arena." Garcia raised an eyebrow. "No weapons? What kind of combat demonstration prohibits weapons?" "The kind meant to humiliate a species they believe is defenseless without technology," Dr. Bennett suggested. "Or," Ethan said slowly, "the kind designed to reveal how dangerous we might be even without weapons." He looked at Garcia. "Lieutenant, how's your hand-to-hand these days?" A small smile appeared on Garcia's face. "Still certified in 6 Earth combat systems, sir, and I've been working on my Krav Maga." "Good. You'll participate, and we need one more." Ethan looked around the room. "What about Private Cook?" Garcia suggested. His background is perfect for this. Ryan Cook looked up from his communications station, surprised. With his slight build and quiet demeanor, he didn't look impressive. But Ethan knew his file. Perfect, Ethan agreed. Private Cook, you're up. Sir? Cook seemed confused. I'm just a communications specialist. With 12 years of wrestling experience and a black belt in judo, Ethan reminded him. You're exactly what we need. 3 hours later, Garcia and Cook stood in Preparation Area C7, wearing standard Earth uniforms without any additional gear. Remember, Ethan instructed them, this isn't about winning. It's about showing them what humans are capable of without ever appearing aggressive. Understood, Captain, Garcia replied. Cook just nodded, his expression now focused and calm. The doors opened, revealing a large circular arena. Around the edges stood representatives from dozens of alien species, all watching with varied expressions of curiosity, skepticism, and, in some cases, thinly veiled hostility. In the center waited Thalvor and 2 other Braxian warriors, each holding what appeared to be ceremonial weapons, short staffs and curved blades that gleamed under the arena lights. Let the assessment exercise begin, High Commander Zil Tarek announced from an elevated platform. First blood or surrender will end the demonstration. Krenax chittered something to his companions, who responded with sounds that needed no translation. They were laughing. Garcia and Cook walked calmly to the center of the arena, completely unarmed, facing opponents twice their size who were armed and armored. The Braxians looked at each other in confusion. Where are your weapons, humans? Thalvor asked. Garcia smiled politely. We don't need any. News of the failed Vespid attack spread quickly through Convergence Station. Captain Miller sat with High Commander Zil Tarek in the station's observation deck, watching ships move slowly against the backdrop of stars. Security Chief Laura Diaz had joined them, her sharp eyes constantly scanning the area out of habit. The Vespid Confederation has officially disavowed Krenax's actions, Zil Tarek reported. They claim he was acting without authorization. Miller nodded. A convenient excuse. But not a believable one, Laura added. We've reviewed their communication records. This was coordinated at the highest levels. Zil Tarek's 4 arms made a gesture of agreement. Several other species were aware of their plans as well. The Braxians, the Norvan Collective, even the Saurians. All warrior cultures, Miller noted. All species that evolved natural weapons. Yes, Zil Tarek confirmed. Species that value strength above all else. They saw humanity as lacking. Laura smiled slightly. They do now understand that appearances can be deceiving? Some do, Zil Tarek said. Others are still adjusting to the revelation. Miller's communicator beeped. Captain, this is Garcia. We have a situation in Dr. Bennett's lab. On our way, Miller replied, standing quickly. When they arrived at the lab, they found Dr. Bennett calmly working at his station. 2 security officers stood nearby, keeping watch over a pair of saurians, lizard-like aliens with impressive natural claws and teeth. What happened? Miller asked. These 2 decided to pay me a visit, Bennett explained without looking up from his work. They expressed concerns about my research into comparative xenobiology. They attacked you, Laura said bluntly, noting the scratches on a nearby table. They attempted to, Bennett corrected. It wasn't very effective. One of the saurians hissed in frustration. The human shows disrespect. We are apex predators. Bennett finally looked up. On your world, perhaps. But humans evolved alongside apex predators. We learned to survive them a very long time ago. Miller looked at the scene more carefully. A broken beaker lay on the floor. A chair was overturned. But the saurians showed clear signs of defeat. One had a swollen eye, and the other cradled its arm protectively. Doctor, Miller said carefully. What exactly happened here? Bennett shrugged. They entered without permission. When I asked them to leave, they became aggressive. I explained that I was busy, but they insisted on making their point physically. He gestured to a nearby table. I had to improvise. The table held ordinary lab equipment, pens, clipboards, specimen containers. To most eyes, nothing that could be considered a weapon. "You defeated 2 armed Saurians with office supplies?" Zil-Tarek asked, all 4 eyes blinking rapidly in surprise. "Adaptation is what humans do best," Bennett replied, echoing Miller's earlier words. "Captain, I think you should see this." He transferred data from his tablet to the main display. The screen showed a detailed analysis of various alien species and their weapons capabilities. "I've been compiling this since we arrived," Bennett explained. "Several species have been planning to contain humanity. The Vespid attack wasn't isolated. It was the first move in a coordinated effort." Laura moved closer to the display. "This says the Norvins are blocking our communications with Earth?" "Yes," Bennett confirmed. "They've established a dampening field at the edge of the system. The handshake can't send messages home." Miller's expression hardened. "That's an act of war." "They don't see it that way," Bennett said. "Based on intercepted communications, they believe they're containing a potential threat before it becomes unmanageable. A preemptive strike against a species they consider dangerous," Miller concluded. High Commander Zil-Tarek made a distressed sound. "This is against all Council protocols. New member species are protected under the Galactic Charter." "I don't think they care about protocols," Laura said. "They're afraid." "Of us?" Miller asked. "Why? We've shown no hostility." "But we've shown capability," Bennett pointed out. "To species that evolved natural weapons, a species that can turn anything into a weapon is terrifying." Miller considered this for a moment. "Zil-Tarek, can you call an emergency council session?" "Of course," the diplomat replied. "But what do you hope to accomplish?" "Understanding," Miller said simply. "It's time for full disclosure." An hour later, the council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from all 27 species currently at Convergence Station attended. The mood was tense, with clear divisions between those supporting the humans and those viewing them with suspicion. Captain Miller stood at the center of the chamber. Behind him, the human team had prepared a comprehensive presentation. "Honored representatives," Miller began. "Recent events have made it clear that there are misconceptions about humanity. Some of you see us as a threat. Others see us as vulnerable. Neither perspective is complete." He nodded to Dr. Bennett, who activated the main display. Images from Earth appeared, peaceful scenes of daily life, technological achievements, art and culture. "Humans developed on a world that constantly challenged us," Miller continued. "We weren't the strongest, the fastest, or the most naturally armed species on our planet. But we survived through intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability." Images changed to show early human history. Stone tools, fire use, communal hunting. "We didn't evolve natural weapons," Garcia added, stepping forward. "So we learned to use our environment. Anything can become a tool or a weapon when needed." Several alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. A Norvin stood, his metal exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights. "This only confirms our concerns," the Norvin declared. "Your species represents an uncontrollable variable. You have no defined limitations." "That's not true," Miller replied calmly. "We have strong limitations, moral and ethical ones. Just because we can use anything as a weapon doesn't mean we choose to." The display changed again, showing Earth's conflicts but also its peace treaties, humanitarian efforts, and cooperative achievements. "Humans can be dangerous," Miller acknowledged, "but we prefer not to be. Our adaptability lets us choose peace even when we could choose violence." As Miller spoke, an alert flashed on Bennett's tablet. He moved quickly to Miller's side and whispered urgently, "Captain, we have unauthorized access to the station's life support systems. Someone's trying to adjust the atmospheric mix in our quarters." Miller nodded slightly, continuing his speech without showing concern. He subtly signaled to Laura and Cook, who quietly left the chamber. "The greatest strength of humanity," Miller continued, holding the council's attention, "isn't our ability to fight. It's our ability to find solutions that don't require fighting." Behind the scenes, Laura and Cook raced to the Environmental Control Center. They found 3 Braxian technicians working at the controls. "Step away from the console," Laura ordered. The Braxians turned, weapons already drawn. They clearly hadn't expected to be discovered so quickly. Laura looked at the primitive metal blades, then at Cook. They both smiled slightly. Back in the council, Chamber Miller was concluding his presentation. "We don't come to the galactic community as conquerors or threats," he said. "We come as partners, bringing our unique perspective and abilities." His communicator vibrated silently. A message from Laura appeared. "Situation resolved. 3 Braxians in custody. No casualties." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Some of you may still have doubts about humanity. Some may even be taking action based on those doubts right now. But remember this. If humans truly were the threat you fear, you would never see us coming." The chamber fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. "I suggest," High Commander Ziltarek said into the silence, "that we vote immediately on full membership status for humanity, with all protections under the Charter." The motion passed overwhelmingly. Only 3 species abstained: the Vespids, Norvans, and Braxians. Their representatives looked uncomfortable, aware that their covert operations had failed. As the session concluded, Miller received another message from the handshake. "Communications restored. Earth notified of situation. Diplomatic response. Incoming." Humanity's place in the galaxy was secure, not because they were the strongest or most heavily armed, but because they had proven they were never truly unarmed at all. Captain Miller led his team through the curved corridors of Convergence Station, following High Commander Ziltarek. The alien diplomat moved quickly, all 4 arms in constant motion as he communicated through various devices. "Our security systems detected unusual access attempts focused on your quarters," Ziltarek explained, "and there has been concerning communication among certain delegations." "The Vespids," Miller said. It wasn't a question. "Among others," Ziltarek confirmed. "Your demonstration has created quite a stir, Captain." They arrived at a secure meeting room, the door sealed behind them with a soft hiss. Displays around the room activated, showing various data streams and security feeds from across the station. "I must admit," Ziltarek said, settling into a specially designed chair, "many of us have been misled regarding humans." "How so?" asked Dr. Bennett. "We have observed your species for decades," Ziltarek explained. "Your technological development, your vessels, your transmissions. But we made a critical error in our assessment." Miller nodded. "You thought because our ships don't bristle with weapons, we ourselves weren't dangerous." "Precisely." Ziltarek tapped a control, and one of the displays showed footage from the demonstration. Garcia and Cook moved with practiced efficiency, neutralizing opponents twice their size without any weapons. "What you witnessed," Miller said, "is just the beginning of human defensive capabilities." Dr. Bennett stepped forward, tablet in hand. "With your permission, Captain?" Miller nodded, and Bennett connected his device to the room's system. The main display changed to show images from Earth's history. "Humans have developed over 400 distinct unarmed combat systems," Bennett explained. "Each adapted to different environments, threats, and purposes. What Lieutenant Garcia and Private Cook demonstrated were just basic applications." Ziltarek's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. 400? That seems excessive. "Adaptation is what humans do best," Miller said. "Where other species might evolve natural weapons, claws, venom, enhanced strength, humans evolved adaptability and creativity," Garcia added. "We can turn almost anything into a weapon if needed." A notification chirped on the security display. Admiral Lissara's face appeared on screen. "High Commander, we have a situation," the security chief reported. "The Vespid delegation has formally requested access to the human quarters for a cultural exchange. I've delayed them, but they're being insistent." "A thinly veiled excuse," Ziltarek said. "They wish to assess your vulnerabilities more directly." Miller exchanged glances with his team. "Let them come," he said. "But we'll need to prepare." "Captain?" Zilteric seemed confused. They clearly have hostile intent. Exactly, Miller replied. And we need to understand what we're dealing with. Dr. Bennett, what do we know about Vespida? Tactics? Bennett consulted his tablet. They're hive-minded with excellent coordination. They prefer overwhelming force and typically attack in groups of 3 or more. Their exoskeletons offer good protection, but their joint areas are vulnerable. Good, Miller nodded. Lieutenant Garcia, remain here with the High Commander. Establish communication with the handshake and alert them to the situation. Private Cook, you're with me. And what will you do, Captain? Zilteric asked. Spring their trap, Miller replied, but on our terms. Back in the human quarters, Miller and Cook quickly rearranged furniture and equipment. They weren't setting up barricades. They were creating pathways and obstacles that would funnel movement in specific directions. Remember, Miller told Cook, we're not trying to hurt anyone. This is a demonstration, not a fight. Understood. Sir, Cook replied, positioning a chair at a precise angle. Miller's communicator beeped. Garcia here, Captain. Security feeds show 4 Vespids approaching your position. 1 is Kreenax. The others appear to be military caste. Copy that. Stand by. Miller took a position in the main living area, appearing relaxed and unaware. Cook disappeared into the sleeping quarters. The door chimed, and Miller called out, Enter. Kreenax stepped through the doorway, followed by 3 larger Vespids. Their chitinous bodies gleamed under the lights, and each carried what appeared to be ceremonial staffs. Diplomatic gifts, supposedly, but clearly designed as weapons. Captain. Miller, Kreenax clicked, his translator making the words sound almost friendly. We hoped to discuss the impressive demonstration earlier. My associates bring gifts from our hive. How thoughtful, Miller said, gesturing to the seating area. Please join me. The Vespids spread out slightly as they entered, a tactical formation poorly disguised as social movement. Miller noted their positions, their balance points, the way they held their gifts. Your species has surprised us, Kreenax said. We had not anticipated such physical capabilities. There's much about humans that isn't immediately obvious, Miller replied casually. We value understanding other species as well. For instance, I understand Vespid attack formations typically involve flanking maneuvers. Kreenax's antennae twitched, a sign of surprise. I'm not familiar with combat tactics, Captain. We are diplomats. Of course, Miller smiled. My mistake. One of the larger Vespids had moved toward the sleeping quarters. Miller heard a soft thud, followed by silence. Is something wrong? Miller asked innocently. Kreenax's compound eyes fixed on Miller. Why would something be wrong? Your colleague seems to have wandered off. The station layout can be confusing. Another soft sound came from the kitchen area. Kreenax chittered rapidly to his remaining companion, who moved into an obvious defensive posture. I think, Miller said, standing slowly, we can drop the pretense, Observer Kreenax. Or should I say, Commander Kreenax of the Vespid military. Intelligence? The Vespid's posture changed instantly. He raised his staff, the diplomatic covering falling away to reveal a high-tech weapon. You are more perceptive than expected, human, Kreenax hissed. But it changes nothing. Your species represents an unacceptable variable in galactic politics. Too adaptable, too unpredictable. And yet, Miller said, here you are, falling into a very predictable trap. Private Cook emerged from the kitchen area, dragging an unconscious Vespid. He had used the alien's own momentum against him. A simple redirect followed by a precise strike to a neural cluster at the base of the Vespid's skull. Kreenax fired his weapon, only to have it malfunction with a spark and hiss. The Vespid looked down in confusion. Electromagnetic pulse, Miller explained. Localized. Standard Earth security protocol. Disables most energy weapons temporarily. The door opened again, and Lieutenant Garcia entered with 2 station security officers and Admiral Lissara. I believe, Miller said to Cranax. This constitutes an act of aggression against a new member species of the Galactic Council. A serious diplomatic incident. Admiral Lissara stepped forward. The captain is correct. Commander Cranax, you and your team are detained pending full investigation. As the security officers took the Vespids into custody, High Commander Zil Tarak entered. He regarded the scene with all four eyes blinking in sequence. Captain Miller, the alien diplomat said, I owe you an apology. We have been monitoring several species with concerns about humanity, but we did not anticipate direct action so quickly. No, apology needed, Miller replied. This was actually helpful. Now we all understand each other better. Later, in the station's secure conference room, Captain Miller's team gathered with key council representatives. The mood was notably different from earlier. The alien representatives now regarded the humans with new respect. Dr. Bennett displayed data from his research. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, he explained. We don't have natural weapons, so we learn to use everything around us. Our entire environment is our arsenal. On the main screen, images showed humans throughout history adapting to threats, using simple tools, creating weapons from ordinary objects, developing fighting techniques that used an opponent's strength against them. The most dangerous thing about humans, Garcia added, isn't our technology. It's that we're never truly unarmed. High Commander Zilteric nodded slowly. I begin to understand. Your species doesn't display weapons because you yourselves are the weapons. Not quite, Miller corrected gently. We're not inherently weapons, we're survivors, there's a difference. Across the table, a Braxian representative muttered something about containment protocols for dangerous species. Miller smiled slightly. I wouldn't recommend that approach, he said quietly. Corners are where humans get most creative. 3 days after the council vote, Convergence Station hummed with activity. News of humanity's unusual capabilities had spread throughout the station, changing how other species interacted with the human delegation. Some approached with new respect, others with careful distance, but all with heightened awareness. Captain Miller stood in the diplomatic reception hall, watching representatives from a dozen species mingle. The atmosphere was guardedly friendly. Lieutenant Garcia remained close by, her eyes constantly scanning the crowd out of habit. I think they're starting to understand us, Miller said quietly. Some are, Garcia agreed. Others are still processing what it means to have humans in the galactic community. High Commander Zilterak approached, accompanied by an imposing figure, Supreme Admiral Vorex of the Norvan Collective. The Norvan's metallic exoskeleton gleamed under the reception lights, reflecting subtle colors with each movement. Captain Miller, Zilterak greeted. Admiral Vorex has requested a private conversation with you. Miller nodded. Of course. They moved to a small conference room adjacent to the reception hall. Once inside, Vorex's posture changed subtly, less formal, more direct. Your species presents a unique situation, Captain, the Admiral said without preamble. The Norvan Collective has studied conflict for 10,000 years. We have cataloged the weapons and warfare techniques of over 300 species. None are like humans. We take that as a compliment, Miller replied. It is a statement of fact, Vorex continued. Most species develop according to predictable patterns. Natural weapons lead to certain societal structures. Technological weapons follow specific evolutionary paths. The Admiral's voice modulator produced a sound like a sigh. Humans follow no pattern we recognize. Because we evolved without relying on natural weapons, Miller suggested. No, Vorex corrected. Because you evolved seeing everything as potential weapons. It is a fundamental difference in perception. Dr. Bennett entered the room, carrying his ever-present tablet. I believe I can help explain, Captain. Bennett displayed a series of images showing various Earth animals, tigers with claws, snakes with fangs, birds with beaks. Most intelligent species, Bennett explained, evolved from predators with natural weapons. Their psychology developed around these inherent capabilities. The Norvans from burrowing creatures with powerful digging claws, the Vespids from hive insects with stingers, The Braxians from ambush hunters with natural armor. And humans, Vorex asked. We came from adaptable omnivores, Bennett replied. Early humans weren't the strongest or fastest. We survived by turning our environment to our advantage. He displayed images of early human tools and shelters. This became fundamental to our psychology. We don't see fixed solutions, we see possibilities. Vorex's sensory appendages twitched in what might have been understanding. And this makes you dangerous in ways we cannot predict. It makes us different, Miller corrected. Dangerous is a choice. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication. Security Chief Laura Diaz's face appeared on the room's display. Captain, we have a situation at Docking Bay 7, she reported. A Braxian cruiser has forced its way into the station's defensive perimeter. They're demanding the human delegation be surrendered. Miller exchanged glances with Bennett and Garcia. Who's leading the Braxians? War Leader Krastor, Laura replied. Thalvor's superior. He claims the council vote was invalid and that humans represent a special threat category. Admiral Vorex stepped forward. This is unacceptable. The council vote was binding. Apparently not everyone agrees, Miller said. How many Braxians are we talking about? A full squad, Laura answered. 20 warriors heavily armed. They've bypassed station security protocols and are heading toward the diplomatic section. Miller nodded calmly. Have they cut off communications? No, but they're jamming most defensive systems. Good, patch me through to War Leader Krastor. The display changed to show a massive Braxian in full battle armor. His scales were dark green with ceremonial markings in vivid red. His eyes narrowed when he saw Miller. Human, Krastor growled. Your species has deceived the council. You claim to come in peace while hiding your true nature. The Braxian Empire will not be fooled. We've hidden nothing, Miller replied calmly, and we've shown no hostility toward your people. Your existence is hostility, the Braxian leader snarled. A species that turns anything into weapons cannot be trusted with galactic citizenship. Miller maintained his composure. War Leader, I understand your concern, but this approach won't end well for anyone. I suggest we meet and discuss this properly. There is nothing to discuss. Your delegation will surrender or we will take you by force. The communication ended abruptly. Miller turned to the others. Options? He asked. The handshake could provide support, Garcia suggested. We have defensive capabilities. Which would prove their point about us being dangerous, Bennett pointed out. Admiral Vorex had been silent, observing the humans' reaction. Now he spoke. You remain calm despite the threat. Why? Miller smiled slightly. Because we've been in worse situations with less preparation. He activated his communicator. Private Cook, is everything ready? Yes, Captain, Cook's voice replied. Dr. Bennett's modifications worked perfectly. All systems are go. Excellent. Begin operation demonstration. Throughout Convergence Station, subtle changes began to occur. The environmental systems in selected corridors adjusted slightly. Lighting patterns shifted in ways barely noticeable to most species. 20 minutes later, the Braxian squad reached the diplomatic section. Their heavy weapons were primed and their expressions showed grim determination. They rounded the final corner and found nothing. The corridor was empty. No defenders, no barricades, not even security personnel. War Leader Krastor growled in suspicion. Forward carefully, he ordered. As the Braxians advanced, they began to feel strange. Their movement slowed. Their impressive natural strength seemed diminished. Several warriors shook their heads in confusion. What is happening? One asked, his voice unusually sluggish. From hidden speakers, Miller's voice echoed through the corridor. The temperature has been lowered to 15 degrees Celsius, and the oxygen level reduced by 7%. Not dangerous, but uncomfortable for Braxian physiology. Your cold-blooded systems are slowing down. Krastor roared in anger. Tricks. Fight us directly, humans. Why would we fight when we can simply create conditions where fighting is unnecessary? Miller replied. Look around you. The Braxians suddenly noticed small devices attached to their armor and weapons. Blinking lights indicated active status. Those are simple electromagnetic pulse generators, Miller explained. Currently inactive, but capable of disabling your energy weapons instantly. They were placed while you were passing through the maintenance section. Impossible, Krastor barked. We would have seen your people. No, Miller said as he stepped into view at the end of the corridor, completely unarmed. You wouldn't have. Humans have been perfecting the art of camouflage since we hunted on the savannah. Your species never evolved that need. Behind Miller, a door opened. Inside was the council chamber, where representatives from all species watched the confrontation via displays. High Commander Zilteric stood with Admiral Vorex and several other key officials. War Leader Krastor, Zilteric announced formally, you have violated council space and threatened a protected delegation. Your actions are being recorded and transmitted throughout the galactic network. Krastor looked around, suddenly aware of the trap he had walked into. Not a physical trap, but a diplomatic one. The humans used no weapons against your squad, Admiral Vorex added. They simply adjusted environmental conditions and let you march forward, an elegant demonstration of their approach to conflict. Miller stepped closer to the Braxian leader. We could have fought. We chose not to. That's the point you're missing about humans. Our greatest weapon isn't what we can use against you. It's our ability to choose not to. The tension in the corridor was broken by slow, deliberate applause. A Vespid representative had entered from a side passage. Well demonstrated, humans, the Vespid said. The Confederation acknowledges your unique approach. Over the next few hours, the Braxian squad was escorted back to their vessel. War Leader Krastor, humiliated but unharmed, was required to make a formal apology before the council. Later, in the human quarters, Miller's team relaxed after the successful resolution. You know, Dr. Bennett said thoughtfully, today might be the most important moment in human galactic history. How so? Garcia asked. We proved we're dangerous without ever being threatening, Bennett explained. The perfect diplomatic position. Miller nodded in agreement. The galaxy now knows that humans are never truly unarmed, but they also know we prefer not to use that capability unless necessary. So what happens next? Cook wondered. Cultural exchange, Miller smiled. I've already received requests from 12 species wanting to learn human martial arts, and the Galactic Database has created a new classification for Earth. What classification? Garcia asked. Miller showed them his tablet. On the screen, Earth's updated entry read, Homeworld of humanity. Approach with respect. Species possesses no natural weapons but is paradoxically never unarmed. Diplomatic contact strongly preferred over conflict.